So this video is going to go over all of the abilities that are currently inside Halo Infinite and letting you know what exactly it is they do and which ones are the best. If you enjoy gameplay breakdowns, weapon comparisons, and just overall tips and tricks when it comes down to Halo Infinite or any other first-person shooter, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers, and click that link in the description down below and subscribe to our second channel. We'll be posting extra content over there as well. When I first started playing Halo Infinite, I didn't even realize I was picking up these abilities that I could actually use. And not only that, I didn't even know how they work, so I tend to avoid using them. But after actually testing them, a lot of them are extremely useful. A couple of things I want to mention before we actually get into it. There's 7 abilities in total, and it's kind of random how you find these abilities. Not every map has all of the abilities on it, which is a bit weird in my opinion, because some maps you feel like they should have had a certain ability that would help with the overall play of the map, but it doesn't actually have that ability, so it's kind of weird. Some abilities are more common than others as well, like thrusters and the grapple hook seem to be on every single map. Now with all that being said, let's actually break them down to show you what they actually do and how you can use them. Now the first ability is the Repulsor. Now the Repulsor gives you the ability to push enemies away, which isn't really that impressive. You can also deflect grenades and other explosives within the game, such as the rocket launcher. You do get 3 uses for this, but you do need to wait a 3.2 second recharge time between each use. Now apparently this also works on vehicles as well, but I didn't actually manage to test this, and if you do run over another instance of this lying around the map, it will replenish. Also, you can stack this with active camo and overshield if you were to enable those first. The next ability is the Grapple. Now the Grapple allows you to get onto ledges or higher points of interest. Now this works if you're within about 20 meters from a ledge and you do get a yellow indicator within your reticle to say whether or not you can grapple onto that ledge or wall. Now there's no time limit on when you need to use this ability by, and you do get 3 uses for the Grapple. Now you do need to wait a recharge time of 2.2 seconds between each grapple though, so definitely keep that in mind when using this. You can't just grapple repeatedly when you do pick this up. Now it does replenish if you run over it again, and on top of that, if you start firing mid grapple, you actually cut the animation short and you no longer reach your destination. Also, if you press the melee button, the exact same happens as well. So basically you can't fire and grapple at the exact same time, which I definitely think they've done to balance this. Now, another cool thing you can do is you can actually grapple onto enemies and melee them, which is pretty cool. Now, it doesn't really change the power of your melee or anything like that. It's still going to be a 2 melee hit. But sometimes it's just cool to feel like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat and pulling enemies up to you so you can punch them in the face. You do need to make sure you get the angle correct on this, because if you're at a slight angle and you're not on a straight line, sometimes you actually miss the melee attack completely and it might get you in a tough spot. The next ability is the thrusters, and essentially the way this works is it kind of dashes you in any direction by about 10 meters, so you do move relatively quickly. Now if you're mid gunfight and you're using this, it's going to allow you to dodge bullets very easily, and that is exactly how I'd recommend using this. Now personally I do think it's a bit underpowered. I do feel like it should give you a bit more of a vertical boost as well, so you can reach some jumps that you might miss. But if you do use this ability, jumping and then using the ability, or standing still and using the ability, doesn't change how far you actually move. Again, there's no timer on when you can use this by, but you do get 3 uses and the recharge time between each use is 3 seconds. So you do need to keep that in mind if you're using this between gunfights, and then you can run over it and replenish it as well. Next we have Drop Wall. Now as this suggests, it actually drops a wall down for cover. And the way this works is you can shoot through it, but enemies can't shoot through it on the other side. Now, it pretty much only takes 2 bullets from more or less any gun to break each of these panes, so it's not really that powerful, so it'll only protect you for 1 or 2 shots. In total, the wall lasts 10 seconds. You get 2 uses from it when you pick it up, but the recharge time is also 10 seconds, so you can only throw 1 wall down at a time. And on top of that, even though you throw this down, this can be used against you if you're on the other side of this wall, so keep that in mind. The next ability is the threat sensor. I do think this is one of the more powerful ones in my opinion, and what this does is it actually shows you enemies through walls within a certain radius. Now the great thing about it is it actually sticks to pretty much any object, which is the most handy thing about it, so you don't need to throw it on the ground. You can pretty much fire it in any direction you think enemies are going to be coming from. It only gives you 3 pulses per threat sensor, which lasts about a time of 6 seconds. You do get 2 threat sensors in total that you can use when you pick them up. So you can kind of fire 2 at the same time because the recharge time is 4 seconds, but one will be almost finishing and then you can fire down the next one. Like I said, this one is pretty powerful if you suspect enemies to be camping in a certain location or if you think they're going to be pushing you. I do think this is very useful. Moving on into one of the more impactful ones now, we have active camo. Now the way active camo works is that you actually become invisible for a period of 30 seconds when you use this. Now you can hold this in your inventory for as long as you want, but once you actually use the active camo, it then runs for 30 seconds continuously and then obviously it will stop. Now if you do sprint, shoot or melee, you will turn off the active camo whilst you're sprinting, whilst you're shooting or whilst you're meleeing another target. So other players can see you in these moments right here. It's important to notice this because it doesn't pause your active camo when you're doing these actions. So if you're shooting, it's not going to pause that 30 seconds. Let's say you've used only 25 seconds of it. You start shooting. It doesn't then continue from 25 seconds. It will continue in the background and it only lasts 30 seconds regardless what you do. Now, whilst active camo is running, you can use every other ability bar overshield, which obviously makes sense. But once again, you do become visible if you're using a grapple hook, the thrusters, or the repulsor. And last and but not least, we have overshield, and this is the most powerful one in my opinion. Now the way this works is essentially you get 2 more shield on your player. So your player has base health and it also has shield as well. Now the way I calculated this is I actually had full health with the overshield and I managed to go on a private game and get melee. Now meleeing takes away all of your shield. That's the way melee works in this game. And then obviously the second hit for melee will finish an enemy player off. But in the instance I tested this for overshield, it only done half damage to a full overshield. So what that means is essentially overshield is 2 extra shield on your character, so you'll have 3 in total. Now this runs for a total of 40 seconds, but you're not really getting a full overshield for 40 seconds because it's already depleting over that 40 seconds of time anyway. Now, of course, if you take damage from enemy players, it will deplete as well, so definitely keep that in mind. Not only is it already depleting by itself as soon as you activate it, if you take damage, it's going to deplete even faster. And the way I'd recommend using this is to make sure you use it as soon as you know you're going to engage in a gunfight, and that way you can get the maximum use out of this ability, and I do think it's one of the more powerful ones. So there is your guide to all the abilities that are currently inside Halo Infinite. If I had to pick a few that I do believe are more powerful, the threat sensor is a great option if you are looking to see where enemies are and you find it quite hard to hear in this game. I do think the footstep audio is a bit weird in this game overall. Obviously, overshield and active camo are really powerful as well if you know how to use them correctly. And lastly, I do think the grapple hook is very handy as well if you want to get to some high ground or you're just trying to escape away from enemies. For the most part, I do think all of these abilities are relatively balanced, and I do think in the future they should be able to add more abilities like this into the game that will keep it new and fresh. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we'll try to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers. Click that link in the description down below and subscribe to our second channel, and thank you very much for watching.